So this is actually the third time I've uploaded this video. Let me explain. So I made this video back in May and it took like 3 weeks of my life to make. So when I posted it and it had like 100 views in 3 or 4 days, I was ecstatic. My channel's still small, subscribe to change that. So getting 100 views in like 3 days is really incredible for me. That's when I woke up to the email. Your video has been removed due to copyright violations. Yes, Studio Ghibli claimed my video. Not just claimed, they took it down. Now, I am adamant that my video was fair use, but apparently they disagreed. There was a few Spirited Away clips that were just 1 or 2 seconds too long. So, I unfortunately had to delete the video. However, I spent hours on this. I wasn't just gonna let it die like that. So, I opened up Premiere Pro and cut down some clips and made some adjustments to make it more explicitly fair use. Despite this, Studio Ghibli claimed the video again, and this time I got a strike for it. Yes, Studio Ghibli kept taking down my video that was me absolutely praising their work and films for 40 minutes. I didn't use any of their music or anything, I just had clips playing in the background while I did my voiceover. I knew going into this video that Studio Ghibli was notorious for copyright claiming everything. But it still sucked that they absolutely killed my baby. So here we are again, third time's the charm. I have deleted every piece of footage of any of the films I'm going to talk about in the video. I've instead replaced it with Cult of the Lamb gameplay. This video was fair use before, but it is undeniably fair use now. So while you won't be able to look at pretty clips of Spirited Away or Howls Moving Castle, you do get to hear my thoughts and experiences on the films. The second time I posted this video, it had 350 views in like 5 days, which is mind-blowing for my channel. So do me a favor, hit subscribe, like the video, so we can do that again. Anyway, disclaimer over, please enjoy the video.
I am an anime sinner. Despite enjoying anime a lot, I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film. That's right, not even one. I think there are a few reasons for this. First off, I didn't start watching anime until my junior year of high school, as long as you don't count watching Pokemon as a kid. The vast majority of my friends were anime fans to one degree or another, but I personally was still stuck in that stigma that surrounds anime. I never wanted to be that weird kid. All the way through high school, I was still embarrassed that anime interested me. The second reason why I think I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film is because the opportunity just never arose. I obviously don't own any of them, and whenever I was hanging out with friends, it was never suggested that we watch one. I find this kind of weird because 2 of my really close friends are huge Studio Ghibli fans. In fact, they're gonna nut when they see that I've made this video. So, what is this video? Well, due to the fact that I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film, I want to watch them. I've been meaning to watch the Studio Ghibli catalog for quite some time, but the third reason why I haven't is because I wanted to make this specific video. I've been actively putting off watching Studio Ghibli films for this specific reason, and it's finally time. I got this video idea over 1.5 years ago, and the stars have finally aligned. So every day this week, I'm going to watch one Studio Ghibli film, and then immediately after watching it, I'm going to produce that portion of the video. I've actually already picked out the 5 films I want to watch this week. I've picked each one of these for different reasons, and I'll talk about those reasons when I talk about the movie. Those 5 films are Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Howls Moving Castle, and Grave of Fireflies. I am so excited to watch these movies. I've been meaning to for years. I'm not gonna lie though, I'm pulling some insane hours this week to make this project while I also work my full-time job. So I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Anyway, today's Sunday and I've got work early in the AM, so I'm gonna hit the hay. I'll talk to y'all again tomorrow after I've seen Spirited Away. Well, one movie down. Before I talk about Spirited Away, let me talk to you about how the structure of each review is going to work. I'm going to have 2 sections on each film, The first section will mainly be about my thoughts, feelings, and observations on the movie. Then, in the second section, I'll talk about more specific parts in the story that I liked. This is going to be by no means a mega detailed breakdown of the story. It's more of going to be a highlight reel of moments that I really liked. These second sections are going to have spoilers, but I'll provide a warning and a time code in case you don't want any parts spoiled. With all that being said, I'm very excited to talk about Spirited Away. Spirited Away lived up to the hype 100%. The other movies I picked for this project have some kind of personal connection to me. Some of it's through friends or family or just pure coincidence, but Spirited Away, it really lacked that out of all of them. I've just always kind of known about the movie and I've always heard good things about it. It's been a movie I've always wanted to watch actually. So that's why I wanted to watch it first. Spirited Away was the movie out of all of the ones on my list I was the most excited to watch. I was 100% right to be excited to watch Spirited Away. To start, I want to talk about what Studio Ghibli is really known for. Their beautiful artwork and their incredible music. To start with the visuals, holy shit, they are so damn crisp. I really think crisp is the best way to describe it. Every frame makes you want to go, mwah, mamma mia, that's so good. I don't even have a 4K TV or anything like that. The animation is just absolutely gorgeous and clean as hell. I knew that Studio Ghibli had a reputation for beautiful art, but damn, I was still blown away at how clean and good looking every frame looked. And of course, the music. God damn the music. I lived in San Francisco for a few months, and while there, I went to a string performance of a bunch of anime music. One of the pieces they played was a Studio Ghibli medley of a lot of their famous pieces. So I already knew how great the score was going to be. But damn, just like their visuals, I was still really impressed with how great the score was. Every part of the film was really enhanced by the music. I actually played cello, so I love string instruments, and they are littered throughout the entire movie. I really enjoyed it. In case you haven't seen Spirited Away, here's a brief overview. A young girl and her parents take a wrong turn and wind up at a strange tunnel. And once they walk through it, they're taken to a magic-filled world, and a lot of crazy shit happens as they try to get home. I know that sounds giga generic because it was giga generic. I'm trying not to spoil anything. I really loved watching this movie blind. What I just told you is pretty much all I knew about the movie. Hell, I didn't even know her parents went with her. I just thought it was just the girl who got transported. The world you get to explore is really unique and fun. It has a lot of frogs, and I do indeed like frogs. The character designs are great to look at. The turnip spirit in particular was a fairly unique one I liked. If you're like me from 2 hours ago and you haven't seen Spirited Away, you really should. It's a great ride. I highly recommend going into it super blind like I did. I really want to talk about some of my favorite moments now, so here's your spoiler warning. I'm going to talk about the good old plot points now. Here is the time code if you want to avoid the spoilers. The first part I want to talk about is the pig scene. Like, come on, holy shit. The movie starts with a semi-chill vibe, but the empty fields and empty towns really provide an ominous tone to the scenes. After getting sent to the other world through the tunnel, the family stumbles upon an empty town. The dad smells food and they end up finding an entire buffet. The mom and dad start eating the food, but Chichiro, the young girl and our main character, refuses to eat any. She's freaked out and she walks off for a bit, but when she comes back, her parents are bloated monsters. They're turning into pigs. This scene hits you like a truck. I fucking loved it. It's such a brutal introduction to the stakes of the story. I also love how intense they get with it. Her parents could have just been full-blown pigs by the time she got back, but instead, they're mid-anamorph. I really loved this scene. What a great introduction to the story. Like I said, I'm not going to do a big breakdown of every story, otherwise we'd be here for 10 hours. So I want to move on to the next scene I want to highlight. Chichiro makes it to a big bathhouse, and that is where most of the story takes place. It's owned by a witch that will turn Chichiro into an animal if she doesn't get a job and work. So a helpful boy, Haku, helps her get to the boiler room where she can ask the big spider dude for a manual labor job. Turns out, he's already got a shit ton of other spiders to do all the work for him. However, at one part, one of the spiders trips and fucking dies. He drops the rock right on his head. Chichiro picks it up and the little guy's okay and he runs off. So Chichiro decides to do his job for him and throws the coal into the furnace.
Once she does it, all the other spiders drop their loads on top of their own heads so she'll do the work for them. This made me laugh. It was really clever and cute and made me laugh a lot. There are bits of humor like this all over the movie and it was a really fun touch. The humor was always pretty decent. No fart jokes or anything like that. Another part of the movie that really stuck out to me was the shit monster scene. Chichiro gets a job from the witch who owns the bathhouse. In the process though, she lost her name and is now called Sen. The witch hates her guts, so she gives her the worst job. At one point, a giant stink spirit shows up for a bath. He's a paying customer, so the witch makes Sen handle them. The stink spirit really just looks like straight shit. It's a brutal scene. Sen has to shift through the shit in order to perform the washing and clean the monster off. At one point, she finds a giant thorn inside the monster, so the witch ties a rope to it and the entire bathhouse helps pull on the rope to get it out. It ends up being a shit ton of garbage and the stink spirit was actually a big dragon the whole time. The dragon rewards Sen with a magic rock thing. That's important later, but the main thing about this moment is the stink spirit. Like, holy shit! That moment was nasty as hell, and yet at the same time, the art still looked so damn crisp. Although, we also get to meet another neat character at this part. No Face is awesome. I knew the internet loved him, but damn, so did I. No Face is very sweet and just wants to be friends with Sen, but they kinda get set off and start eating people and going absolutely nuts eating everything. Sen has to confront him and uses some of her magic medicine to help heal him and calm him down. He becomes a part of the journey and ends up finding a home with the evil witch's good twin sister. No Face is great. Also, I'm pretty sure that the summer ween monster from Gravity Falls is 100% based off of No Face. You can't convince me otherwise. It's a 1-to-1 fit. Cute mask, crazy ass mouth, eats like crazy, and eats people. I mean, look at the character designs. Honestly, the connection just makes me like Gravity Falls more. The last moment I want to talk about from Spirited Away is the end of the film. Chichiro/Sen's friend, Haku, manages to negotiate a deal with the evil witch that will allow Chichiro and her parents to go home if Chichiro can pass a test. She must pick out her parents from a group of pigs. She sees through the witch's tricks and declares none of the pigs are them. She's correct and her parents are instantly sent back to this tunnel. I honestly wasn't sure if the parents were going to make it. The brutality of the moment when they turn into pigs really convinced me that the studio was willing to pop off and do crazy shit. So I was honestly wondering if they were going to kill off the parents or force them to stay back for some reason. Thankfully though, they do get sent back. I felt a lot of relief when that happened. I was really worried for Chichiro. I just really wanted her to get her family back. She struggles so much throughout the movie and by the end you really want her to get everything she wants. Chichiro learns that the tunnel she came through has been opened for her and she can walk through to go home. Her friend tells her that she cannot look behind her. She must look forward the whole time and must not look back. Chichiro reaches her parents at the tunnel's entrance and pauses. She starts to look back but freezes again. My heart was legitimately in my throat. Again, I really believed that this moment could go either way. Thankfully, she doesn't look back. She moves her eyes forward and runs to her parents, and the trio finally go home together. What a great ending. I like brutal and gritty movies, but you know what? Sometimes you can't beat a happy ending like that. I really loved all of the characters in Spirited Away and the world that they lived in. I really wanted Chichiro to make it home, and it felt so great when she did. I really loved this movie. This fall, Spirited Away will be played in theaters for 3 days. October 30th, November 1st, and November 2nd. And to be honest, I really think I'm going to get tickets to go see it again. It's going to be in theaters again as a part of Ghibli Fest. Essentially, Studio Ghibli has some of their films rerun in theaters every few months. I actually only learned about it while getting ready for this video. I'm not sure all the details on area and all that. You can look that up for yourself. But I definitely would recommend looking into it if you're interested in seeing one of these movies for the first time or rewatching an old favorite. All you have to do is Google Ghibli Fest 2022. Not sponsored, by the way. I just thought it was kind of cool. Spirited Away was great, but it's late and it's time to go to bed. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow after I've watched My Neighbor Totoro. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Tonight, I watched My Neighbor Totoro. My Neighbor Totoro is very cute and very wholesome. The story revolves around a family with a major focus on the 2 daughters. The mother of the family is in the hospital with an unnamed disease and the father is a university professor. The family recently moved to a new home, presumably because it's closer to the hospital, but it's never really said why. We really don't get to see much of the mom, but we do get to see a ton of the dad, and he's great. I noticed that he's super patient with his daughters and definitely seems like a dad who cares. The two daughters are the real main characters of the movie, Satsuki and Mei. Satsuki is the older sister and is 10 years old. Mei is only 4. The pair have incredible chemistry together. They really feel like sisters. Their interactions constantly put smiles on my face. At one point in the film, the sisters meet Totoro. Totoro brings a lot of joy to the girls' lives. He can also call the cat bus. Cat bus is cute as hell. To be honest, I wish there was more of Totoro in the film. Totoro is a fun character who has a lot of personality, and I definitely want to see more of him. Overall, My Neighbor Totoro was a really great watch. It was just good vibes and wholesome 9000 the whole time. I definitely see why Totoro is such a famous and loved character. I want to talk about a couple specific moments from the movie now, so if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time code. For everyone else, let's go. I really only have one scene I want to talk about from My Neighbor Totoro, and that's the scene where Mei goes missing. At one point in the film, Mei gets lost and everyone goes into a panic searching for her. They end up finding a child's shoe in the swamp, and for a solid 5 minutes, the movie makes you think that Mei actually might have drowned. The film was rated G, so I was pretty certain that she wasn't actually dead, but still, it was convincing enough that I was worried. The panic in everyone's face is really well done. I also thought the mom was gonna die as well. The telegram that Satsuki gets from the hospital also makes you think that her mom is in bad shape and that she might die, when in reality, she's just a little sick at the moment and nothing more. That's all I really wanted to talk about from Totoro. But please don't take the much shorter highlight section as a sign that I didn't enjoy My Neighbor Totoro. I did enjoy watching the movie a lot. The reason why I didn't highlight much is because the majority of the movie can be summed up as sweet and wholesome 100. It's a really fun watch, and I think almost anyone can enjoy it. Tomorrow I'm gonna see Princess Mononoke in theaters. Also, I hope I'm saying that right. I'll find out tomorrow when I get to see the movie. My original plan was to watch Ponyo on Wednesday, but last week I found out about Ghibli Fest. I mentioned this a little bit before in the video. Ghibli Fest involves Studio Ghibli films getting rerun in theaters across the country. And it just so happens that this week, the week I planned to make this video, Princess Mononoke is in theaters. But since I got this opportunity, I really didn't want to miss out on watching a Studio Ghibli film in theaters. A few years ago I saw a showing of Akira in theaters, and that was amazing. So I'm really hoping that this is just as great. So tomorrow I'm going to see it with a bunch of friends. I'm a little sad I won't be watching Ponyo this week, however I definitely plan to watch it in the future. I might not make a video on it though, I'll have to decide once I watch it. While it does suck that I have to put off Ponyo, I'm still really excited to watch Princess Mononoke on the big screen. One of the friends I'm going with even says it's her favorite Studio Ghibli film. So good night everyone, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hi everyone, I'm back from the movies and it's late as hell. Princess Mononoke was also really good. I'm glad I took the opportunity to see it on the big screen. I knew nothing about the film going in, so I was really surprised when I saw people's arms getting chopped off and their heads getting blown off as well. Princess Mononoke is PG-13 and it's not super gory or anything like that, it's still just PG-13. It's still quite a step up from My Neighbor Totoro that I watched the night before. It kind of put me in this tone whiplash. Princess Mononoke is an epic that involves spirits, godlike animals, armies of boars, samurais, gunslinging brothel workers, and demons and curses. The story of the film really felt like it could have been the plot of the next Final Fantasy game. I liked the story. If you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, I think that this movie would be up your alley.
Hey guys, quick editor's note. So Miyazaki, the director of Mononoke, is actually extremely critical of Western media and actually calls out Lord of the Rings specifically. So I don't think he'd be too happy that I'm comparing one of his masterpieces to Lord of the Rings, but tough shit, I stand by it. Anyway, back to the script. Many times we see one of the main characters, Ashitaka, riding around the landscape, and every time this happened, I thought of Elden Ring. I really liked San as a character. She's super badass. She's on par with the wolves. Even though she is just a normal human, she's feared just as much as the big doggos. The story follows Ashitaka's journey to cure a curse that gets placed on him. Along his journey, he comes across an oddly progressive and authoritarian town, filled with the outcasts of society like hookers and lepers. They spend their days smelting iron and creating more advanced guns and weapons. This group is in conflict with the spirits of the forest, San and the wolves included, as well as they're at war with the rival faction who's trying to get their hands on the town's iron. The movie explores the need to care about the world's environment, but it also explores the need to use the world's resources to advance the human world. Each character has values and goals that they're searching for, and most of the group's goals work in opposition to each other. These rivaling goals create a ton of conflict that drive the movie's plot. I enjoyed Princess Mononoke. It was a really entertaining film to watch with an interesting story. A lot of the scenes are actually kind of brutal. Speaking of those scenes, it's spoiler time. Skip to this time code to avoid spoilers from Princess Mononoke. The first thing I want to talk about from Princess Mononoke is the combat in general. The action scenes in the film are really great to watch. It's not nearly as flashy as modern anime, but the fighting is fluid, fast-paced, and really well animated and choreographed. It's realistic while still embracing some of the fancier fantasy elements. The action can be notably brutal at times. The first time Ashitaka's curse activates and causes him to disfigure and brutalize some people, many people in the movie theater laughed. It really came out of nowhere. The tone of the film up to that point hadn't really indicated that things were going to pop off this way. I liked it a lot though. The movie was really enhanced with the use of its violence. The moments where guns were used against infantry were particularly brutal thanks to these touches. After firing into a crowd of soldiers, the next scene shows many of them dead. Some missing heads, others legs and arms. It's really jarring every time you see it. I also really like the scene where Ashitaka uses the curse to fight against the 4 pursuing samurai, and he absolutely brutalizes them. He quickly kills the first 2 samurai, and then shoots the 3rd samurai's head clean off his shoulders. This causes the last samurai to instantly turn around and run away. Everyone laughed hard. Another moment of violence that made the theater laugh was after Ashitaka got shot. He gets thrown off the wolf at one point, and the said wolf instantly pounces on his head and absolutely shakes his head like it's a stuffed toy. I personally laughed really hard when that happened. One of the last things I want to talk about are the pigs. At the start of the movie, Ashitaka fights a big demon pig that ends up cursing his arm. The details that are shown on the pig are really nasty and satisfying. I found the scene where the pig melts away to be particularly disgusting. Near the end of the film, a second pig god goes berserk, and this time it really felt like an Elden Ring boss. The pig spews blood everywhere, and it's just nasty to look at. It really felt like something you'd come across in Caelid. I really enjoyed the nasty details added to these pigs. Each of the pig scenes were really memorable. Princess Mononoke was pretty great as well. I'm really glad I got the opportunity to see it in the theaters. Watching a beautiful film like this on the big screen is always a plus. Next on the list is Howls Moving Castle. I'm really excited to listen to this movie's score. The main theme is already gorgeous, so I'm excited to hear the rest of the score. I'll talk to you all soon. I liked Howls Moving Castle. It was a very cute movie. I knew that it was a really beloved movie, so I was a little bit worried that I was going to not like it and then get crucified by the internet for not loving it. Thankfully though, that didn't happen. Howl's Moving Castle follows the story of a girl named Sophie. She ends up getting cursed and turned into an old woman, and she's not able to tell anyone about her curse. Obviously, she wants the curse removed, so she goes off to find a wizard to help her remove the curse. She manages to get aboard Howl's Moving Castle and becomes his cleaning lady. And this is where the real movie begins. Throughout the movie, we get to watch as Sophie's relationship with the other characters and her relationship with herself improve. I will say that Sophie is definitely the star of the show for me. Howl was cool and all, but I struggled to really understand him. More on that in the spoiler session. Also, Howl's played by Christian Bale in the dub, which I found interesting. I didn't know that until I was writing this section of the script, but now that I do know that, I can completely hear the Batman in Howl's voice.
The other two main characters are Calcifer the Fire Demon, who I thought sounded a lot like Mike Wazowski. Of course, while writing this section of the video, I found out that it is Mike Wazowski. Good old Billy Crystal voices the Fire Demon, and I think he does the best job out of all the voice actors. I really liked Calcifer. He was a light in every scene. The last main character is Marco, who is Howl's apprentice, and he's kind of just hanging out for the majority of the film. Of course, like always, the music and visuals are great in this movie. The main theme is iconic, and the rest of the score is just as impressive. Listening to and watching a Ghibli film will always be a treat, but the music specifically in Howl's Moving Castle is something special. Even before watching the film or even learning anything about it, I knew the main theme. It's actually been trending on TikTok for the past couple months. TikTok relevance is proof of quality, we all know that. Now, I would like to talk about parts of the plot and more specific details. So if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time code. For everyone else, let's start with a look at the relationship between Sophie and Howl. Okay, let's start with Howl. Like I said, I don't get him. I find it hard to really grasp onto what his character was doing or what his character wanted. By the end, the war is brought up, and it's just said it's his motivation, but the war is never really explored besides a few scenes. It's really just something that takes place in the background for the most part. Don't get me wrong, I liked Howl, I just found his motivations and his character in general hard to pin down. That being said, I really liked his relationship with Sophie, but not so much in the romantic sense. The part that I really enjoyed about the relationship was the duality of the pair. Sophie starts as a pretty normal woman with low self-esteem. She gets cursed and turned into an old woman and is unable to tell anyone about her curse. It's not really clear how she overcomes the curse, but by the end of the film, she's back to being a normal, pretty young woman, but now with gray hair and a much greater sense of self-confidence. Howl, on the other hand, is the reverse. He is this handsome, charming man who holds a large amount of power, though he also has a curse. Howl has no heart, he's given it to Calcifer. I also didn't fully understand Howl's curse or why it worked the way it did, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. The point still stands. Both are struggling with curses that they can't speak about, but by the end of the film, each character has overcome their curse thanks to the help of the other. Sophie's curse is never really explicitly broken. As the film goes on, she starts to appear young again more and more. Her hair does stay gray though. The kind of take I took to Sophie's curse was that it was a comparison to her self-confidence. At the start of the film, she explicitly says multiple times that she is not pretty. Whenever she says this, your heart actually dies a little bit. Through her journey, she grows a lot. She becomes sure in her abilities and worries far less about the way she looks because she's an old woman now, and there's nothing she can do about it. I like to think that the curse manifested less and less as her self-confidence grew. The more she grows as a person, the less hold the curse has over her. Howl's curse is much more explicit. Sophie helps him by getting his heart back and putting it back inside of him. I like to look at each of their curses as past trauma or baggage.
While I was never quite sold on the romantic elements of their relationship, I did really like the more wholesome parts of their relationship. Howl and Sophie each help each other overcome their respective curses. They each help each other move past their trauma and heal. Without each other, the two would be stuck in the same places that they were before. Who knows, maybe I'm completely misreading the themes of the film, but that's what I mainly took away from their relationship. I liked it. It was cute.
Their relationship was honestly the main thing I wanted to talk about, but I do want to briefly mention some plot points that felt very out of place to me. The story and plot felt kind of messy for me on this one. I found it hard to follow a lot of parts of the film, the war specifically. We only really get a few scenes showing battles or war, and it's never really expanded upon. Like, why is the war happening? Who are the opposing forces and what are their motivations? The most we really get is meeting one of the higher ups that's helping run the war. She has history with Hal, I guess, but that's also not really explored. And by the end of the movie, she just calls off the war because Hal's happy? Her dog runs off and joins Hal and crew, and at the very end of the movie, the dog FaceTimes her, and she's like, oh, that's where you went. Then in the background, she sees Hal and crew happy and hanging out, so she's suddenly just like, okay, time to end the war. The whole war aspect was interesting, but it felt kind of tacked on to me. With Princess Mononoke, the wars and battles are talked about and shown frequently, and the motivations of all the parties are explored really well. But we lack all of this exploration in Howl's Moving Castle. They're different movies with different stories and tones, so I'm not complaining that Howl's Moving Castle didn't feature any beheadings or anything like that. I'm just mentioning the comparison here because Princess Mononoke came out years before Howl's Moving Castle. So the studio definitely wasn't new when it came to incorporating war elements into their stories. I just wish the war aspect of Howl's Moving Castle was explored a little deeper. The last thing I want to mention is Turnip Head. He's this cursed scarecrow that Sophie helps out, and he just jumps around and follows everyone, helping them out where he can. Then suddenly at the end of the film, Sophie kisses him and Turnip Head turns into a full-on prince. He turns back into a human and explains that he was cursed until he got a kiss from his true love. This is so out of the blue. I don't have a problem with it. It was just really out of nowhere. I found it funny more than anything. It has literally no bearing on the plot. It's just so wild that I had to bring it up.
Overall, Howl's Moving Castle was a messy joyride that I really enjoyed. Things don't always make sense, but ultimately it's a really fun and enjoyable and sweet watch. I've still got the main theme stuck in my head. While Howl's Moving Castle may have been really wholesome and sweet, tomorrow's movie will not be. Tomorrow I'll be watching Grave of the Fireflies. I have a really close friend who loves this film, and whenever I ask him about it, all he says is it's really, really sad. I wanted to put this at the end of my marathon because I thought starting my week with such a depressing film would be a horrible way to start my week. So instead, I'm going to end my week with it. I'll speak to you all tomorrow after I've watched Grave of the Fireflies. It's not Friday. I did watch Grave of Fireflies on Friday. But after watching that movie, I lost all energy to work on this project. If you've seen Grave of Fireflies, that ending is pretty depressing and it killed my energy to do anything. It's not that I was crying for a day and a half straight, it was more of like a soul just crushing reality check. It's really hard for me to say anything more without spoiling, so let me get back to my script. Man oh man, what a film. I knew going into Grave of Fireflies that it was going to be sad. I knew nothing more than that, and I was not prepared for the experience I was about to have. The sadness that comes with watching Grave of the Fireflies is very unique. I've been destroyed by films like A Silent Voice and Sing before, which both made me cry. But Grave of Fireflies is a completely different type of pain and sadness. I don't want to watch Grave of Fireflies ever again. Not because it's a bad film, but because of the way it made me feel.
The events that take place in Grave of the Fireflies don't make you feel good, but it definitely makes you feel. That is the point of art after all. I do recommend that you watch Grave of the Fireflies at some point in your life, but be ready for a hard watch. I'm going to end the spoiler-free section here. I really don't want to spoil the events of the film to anyone, not even a little bit. Just know it's sad. To avoid spoilers, please skip to this time code. Please don't spoil this film for yourself. Even if you think you might not watch it, I would still avoid the spoilers in case you do. For everyone else, let's talk about my journey watching Grave of the Fireflies. When Grave of the Fireflies started, I knew it would be sad. The movie starts with our main character, Seita, running through his family home gathering important items. Air raid sirens are blaring in the background and it's clear that it's wartime. 1945 Japan to be exact. After securing some family items, Seita grabs his little sister Setsuko and the pair run off to join their mother at the shelter. They never make it to the shelter, but instead take shelter in some tunnels near a river. This opening scene itself sets a really brutal tone for the film. The entire city burns while people run for their lives. The firebombing literally levels the city. Seita and Setsuko have lost their home. Immediately after, the pair head to the local school that survived the firebombing. It's where everyone's supposed to rendezvous. Their mother's already there, but covered in bandages. She got set on fire during the raid, and things don't look good for her. Even though she's completely bandaged up, you can still see bits of her burnt skin, and it's pretty hard to look at. It really shows the brutality and reality of war. That's one of the major messages in the film, and it does an incredible job at getting that message across. Their mother dies the next day. Seita keeps this a secret from Setsuko because he just doesn't have the heart to tell her. This is just the opening 20 minutes or so of the film, and it's already heartbreaking. Our main characters have already lost everything, or so it seems. Unfortunately, things get far, far worse. They move in with their aunt, who is very abusive. At first I was assuming that maybe she's just a cold woman, but as their time with her goes on, she gets meaner and meaner. Eventually they can't take the abuse anymore, and they leave. They leave their aunt's home around halfway through the film. Things have been bad, and the first 15 minutes of the film were pretty brutal, but I still wasn't sure where the heartbreak would come in. I kind of knew that Setsuko was going to die. Grave of the Fireflies is notoriously sad, so killing off a small child is definitely a way to make it sad. Also, I misspoke earlier. The film actually opens with some men cleaning an area where a lot of homeless people live, and one of those boys is Seita. We don't know it's him because we haven't met him yet, but it's easy to figure out once we actually meet him. Unfortunately, Seita is dead down there. The men comment that he and another boy down there have passed on. One of the men finds Seita holding an old candy jar. He looks at the garbage, shrugs, and throws it to the side. The top of the tin opens up, and some ash and a piece of bone fall out. Then the scenes I already discussed begin. That whole scene combined with intuition, it's honestly not hard to guess that Setsuko is going to die. But I had no idea how, and I had no idea how the film would make you watch the process take place. I figured that the sad part would revolve around the nukes that were dropped on Japan. It's late World War II Japan, so that's not the craziest of a guess to make 20 minutes into the film. But no, oh no, the reality is far worse. At this point in the film, Seita and Setsuko are homeless and living together in those tunnels by a lake that they found at the beginning of the film. They turn the place into their little home. They catch frogs in order to eat. They have nothing left to trade, and not so many people are accepting money right now. So for months, the pair eats what they can: frogs, soybeans, and the meager rations the government provides them. Slowly, we see signs of Setsuko's downfall, although they're not clear at first. She starts to mention frequently that she needs to use the bathroom, and it's not till later when she mentions that she's having diarrhea that the red flags raise. That's when the fear started for me. For those who don't know, diarrhea is actually pretty dangerous. Dysentery is a disease that gives you the mega runs, and it kills you by dehydrating you and depleting your body's nutrients by forcing you to shit it all out. On top of all that, Setsuko's doctor removes her shirt and we see her battered body. You can see her ribs and she's covered in sores and rashes. The doctor says she's not getting enough to eat, no shit, and sends Seita and Setsuko on their way. From here, it's clear how the film is going to end. Setsuko is going to starve to death. At this point, you're just waiting for it to happen. The film baits you a few times thinking she's gone, but when it's actually happening, it's pretty clear she's passing on. It's really hard to watch. I didn't cry though, which I think is the craziest thing that this movie did to my heart. I'm a crier, I'm not gonna lie. But this movie didn't make me cry. The pain I felt was much different. It was a pit of despair in my stomach that just sat there and got deeper and deeper the longer the movie went on. By 2/3 into the movie, you know what's coming. It makes you sit there and watch as this boy who's already lost everything and has fought so hard to keep his sister alive, finally loses everything. There is no happy ending. There is no closure, only despair and sadness. The most heartbreaking thing about this film is the fact that it's based on a true story. Even though this film takes place in World War II, things like this happen all over the world still today. People get put into destructive poverty, people lose their mothers, fathers, and homes. War isn't gone, not even close. All over the world we have wars going on. Most recently are the tragedies taking place in Ukraine. I think that's the most depressing part of Grave of the Fireflies, that people actually live tragedies as brutal as this all over the world. Even in countries like the US where most people are wealthy. The world is a brutal, unloving place. After I watched Grave of the Fireflies, it sucked all motivation for me to work on this project. I hope you can forgive me for compromising this project a little bit by filming on Sunday instead of Friday. Now that my week with Studio Ghibli is over, let's talk about some of my overall thoughts. Studio Ghibli is honestly just everything I thought it would be. The art was strikingly beautiful, the music was really pretty to listen to, and I enjoyed every single one of their movies I watched this week. I think Spirited Away is definitely my favorite. I know I'm so unique. And then I think second is Howls Moving Castle. I thought Howl's Moving Castle was pretty messy when I watched it, but I still really liked it. The Merry-Go-Round of Life is just one of the best pieces in that score ever. And then third, I think it goes to Totoro. I had the least to say about Totoro, but it's just a good time. There's nothing bad to say about it. And then fourth, I'd put Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke I still really enjoyed, I just didn't connect to it in any real personal way. It's still a really great movie that I honestly would be interested in seeing again down the line.
And last is Grave of the Fireflies. Again, me putting this last, it's not a bad film, quite the opposite. It's pretty incredible. The reason why it's last is because I do not want to watch it ever again. However, I do want to re-emphasize that this film is definitely something that I think everyone should experience. If you haven't seen it, you should go change that. It's literally free on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was a really fun project that I had a lot of fun doing, and I've been wanting to do it for years. I know that the filming during parts of it was a little rough, but I'm still kind of in between places right now, so I don't have a good place to set up. However, it looks like in the next month or two, that's going to be changing, so expect a big jump in quality soon. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.